In this video, I've opened a can of worms. Join me. Roll titles. Well, hi YouTube, Brian James at Micro Four Thirds Guy with you once again, and yes, it's 20 degrees, 21 degrees actually, sitting in my car here, and you'll get some car noise from outside. Don't worry about it, don't worry, I've given up worrying about it. But you'll find there's some car noise in the background, and I've opened up something of a, well, a bit of a shitstorm really. Don't say that very often on the video, but it's probably pertinent here. Certainly a can of worms. And it's all over this. Where is it? It's here. Oh. This little thing, this camera, the G9 with the 12 to 60 f3.5 to 5.6 lens. Oh my goodness, have I had some comments back from my previous video. Thank you to all of those who have commented. No, thank you to all of those who give constructive comments. I don't necessarily have to agree with the comments, but if they're constructive, then they're worthwhile. I like that. So thank you to all those who gave constructive comments. Thank you to all those who gave reasonable comments. And big no thank you to all of you trolls who just decide you're just going to be downright nasty and quite caustic, including the person who I've now blocked. I don't block people very often either, but I blocked you because you suggested that I'd sold out and I was doing an advertising campaign for Panasonic Lumix, and they were paying me for this, and it was quite a terse comment. No, I am not under the payment of Panasonic Lumix. I am not paid, apart from my ad revenue and anything which is donated by my viewers and my patrons. I'm not paid for these videos, full stop. Nobody's given me anything. Actually, that is a lie. I did receive two lenses. I received a 7 Artisans 4mm lens and a TT Artisan 50mm manual lens. They're the only things I've ever received for this channel. So there's the cards on the table for that one. But it did start it did open a bit of a can of worms, and it's caused me a couple of sleepless nights actually since, which I don't like. First of all, I've realised that probably less than 50% of the people who are watching the videos actually listen to what's being said. That's okay, you're not forced to listen to what's being said, but it does mean that you miss the gist of some of the stuff. So some of the comments were really quite off target and off subject. Never mind. Some of you listen to everything intensely, and I really do appreciate that, and I appreciate the comments that you gave over for it. I had some really good suggestions. I had some people questioning my questioning what I saw, and to tell you the truth, I questioned what I saw myself, because some of the photographs were sitting around about the 500 ISO and I was still getting noise, and I even looked back at them. I did a big session yesterday closely looking at each of the photographs that I took, and one at ISO 250 was displaying quite a lot of noise. How's that? Don't know, but I will tell you a couple of things that I have found out, and a great deal of this is thanks to the comments which you left below, and thank you for taking the time to do that. I know it's a pain in the backside leaving comments online, and it's a real pain in the backside replying to a lot of them. So if I didn't reply, it's not because I didn't read it. But there was one comment which really got me, and I'm not going to say any of the names of the people who sent them. If you want to find out the names, have a look through the comments below on the previous video. But one person did say that they've come across an issue on the G9. And this is taken purely off their message. I haven't done any research on this as such yet, but saying that the G9 had a specific sensor which was unique to the G9. I don't know if that's true or not, but obviously we have noise problems when it comes to low exposure, underexposure. But most of my photographs didn't have an exposure problem. I had an issue with depth of field, which I'll come to in a few moments. I had an issue with a few things, lighting more than anything else. But underexposure really wasn't the problem. So the maximum I got on my photographs was up to an ISO 1000. And one of the people who, as I say, they got onto me, suggested that in overexposure, when you're burning out whites on the G9, it can create noise in the other areas. And there's a certain logic to that if it's overloading amplifiers, because effectively what we have is a sensor and a whole lot of amplifiers to amplify those signals and then record them. And if you've got automatic gain controls and things in the camera, and I don't know how the camera circuitry is set up, but if you're overloading them, maybe it is causing some noise on the darker parts. And I had a problem with the glass in there. The room I was in was very, very close together. It was quite a small room with tables close together, but a whole wall down one side of windows, and the sun was blaring in from them. It was a bright day outside. So the room itself wasn't dark. So underexposure really wasn't the problem, or it shouldn't have been a problem. How, of course, I managed to get most people so that they weren't backlit by these horrendous windows. But the problem with that is there were people that I just couldn't avoid having some of the window in shot. It's almost like you can see in the car here. I'm exposing for my face here, but I've still got glass all the way around the car. And this is a totally different light level to what's hit my face. Now what we had with that was huge light level from these windows. So to be able to expose the subject, the people I was taking of, I had to overexpose the general shot. And that meant burning out the windows. Now I knew I could live with that. I wasn't wanting any detail in the windows, and it's something I've done many times, many years. Let the windows burn out. You're not too worried about those. You can take them down a little bit in post if they're too much glaring. But I wanted to expose on my subject, and without dragging it up from the weeds necessarily, without dragging it up out of the shadows. And that's worked really well on other cameras. I think that was my problem. And it's interesting that somebody noted on that. I also had another comment which said that there'd been an article in about 2015. And again, I haven't seen this article, I've got no reference to it, but I'm very interested. I've asked them if they got a reference to it, but saying that there was a bit of a known problem on Panasonic Lumix cameras when it came to high exposure. And seemingly it was in a forum, it was very, very quickly hushed up and gone over. I don't know if it's true or not. If it is, it could answer a problem on this. I had a lot of people who made comment about the lens. Get a faster lens, get a faster lens. Your lens is too slow. My lens wasn't too slow, and thank you for thinking about that in the first place. But I'll tell you why my lens wasn't too slow. It's an f3.5 to 5.6, as I say, zoom. I like it. It's my favorite, probably my favorite lens, and I've said this in videos before. And I don't find it a bad lens. One or two people had to go at it, but the big problem I had was I was going around tables, and those tables were quite big tables in a small room, so I was very, very close to the closest person, and effectively quite far away from the furthest person. And what I was finding is, with this lens, I was shooting mainly towards the wider end. So this is 12, I would be going between 12 and probably 20 degrees most of the time. 12 and 20 millimeters focal length most of the time. And then you're into the sort of f3.5 to f4 area. I was rarely going up to the the areas where I'd be getting into the 5.6, which is the more telephoto lens area. So it's not a particularly slow lens, but because of the proximity of the tables, being so close to the tables, and also trying to get the full table in focus, which was my primary aim, rather than noise, my primary aim is to get the subject in focus so that they can see themselves properly. I can live with noise, but I can't live without the focused people. To be able to do that, I was having to stop the camera down to f5.6, f6.3, and that was giving me the ability to get enough depth of field to be able to get those people in focus. So if I can shut that down and still have ISOs which were in the not particularly high enough, I don't class a 500 or a 600, 700, 800 ISO as being pushed whatsoever. I shouldn't have any problems on those. And I put a block on at 6,400 anyway. It can't go beyond 6,400. But none of the photos went beyond 1,000. And 1,000, I think, on a modern camera such as G9 should be very easy to attain. So I did that, and I was shutting down well within the range. Shutter speeds were fast enough for me to be able to comfortably shoot without movement. So it wasn't being pushed on light. So thank you to all the people who said about having a faster lens, but a faster lens wouldn't have done me any good. I would have still been shooting at the same aperture and the same exposure, and having the same problems about the depth of field. So that leaves me with the camera, and a few people have said that they've never had this experience on the Olympus cameras. They're surprised on the G9. I'm surprised on the G9. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this back in. I've got the opportunity to go back in that room again next week, and depending on what the conditions are like outside, it's going to be bright outside. If it's not, I'll go back at a later time. I'm going to take this and I'm going to take a couple of other cameras as well and see exactly what we get. So that's the issue about the G9. I don't believe the G9 is faulty. I do have an inkling that it may be the fact that they've blown out the overexposures, because that's the only logical thing I can see. However, that brings me on to the next subject, which was, wow, my goodness, the tribal views about going for a full frame camera. Now, what I haven't told you is, because I don't tell it very often, I go as a Micro Four Thirds guy, but I do tend to be fairly open with you. I tend to have a chat and tell you what's going through my mind more than anything else. It doesn't necessarily mean to say that I'm right or wrong. But one of the things I've stayed away from is telling you about the other camera gear I have. I still have some APS-C cameras. I still have a Canon EOS 7D and a 7D Mark II, which are APS-C cameras, considerably bigger sensors. I tend not to use them very often, but I do use them for fun now and again. And I don't really get any hassle because I don't mention them, but the merest mention of considering a full frame camera has lost me 6 subscribers straight away, which was interesting. And also from some of you an incredibly caustic response. Wow, I was really shocked by the thing of that. One person quite happily said they were off because I was considering a full frame camera. How could I abandon them? I'm not abandoning anybody. I've got the Micro Four Thirds because the format suits me. It is small, it is light, it is easy to carry. What I did say in the previous video, and again this is about people listening, and I don't think some of these people listened, was for a specific purpose. If I'm going to be doing some paid work for someone, where I'm in the situation I was in the other day, where I'm doing an event or doing some portrait work, that was where I was considering the full frame, not instead of Micro Four Thirds. And I haven't become some sort of alien because I'm considering shooting with more than one camera format. Honestly, I'm the same person as I was last week. So if I do go down that route, then, and it is do, I was asking the question, if you remember, it said, do I go back to full frame, question mark, what should I buy, question mark, on the title. So if I do go back to full frame, then it will not be at the expense of giving up Micro Four Thirds. And somebody said about didn't want to have a whole load of full frame reviews on the channel. I quite agree. I don't want to do a whole load of full frame reviews myself. I wanted it as a working camera. The advantage of the S5 Mark II may have been, sorry, the S5, as I wasn't considering buying new, so I wouldn't be going for the S5 Mark II. The advantage of the S5 would have been it's very good for fitting onto gimbals, it's very, very good for video, would have been good for that, perhaps. But it was to do what I specifically said, which is why I didn't want a whole load of lenses. I wanted to keep it very, very small, not invest a huge amount. And that was it. And if the camera gear is that important to you, that it's so tribal that you would consider leaving a channel because I looked at another camera. It's almost like having a relationship, isn't it? You looked at another camera. How could you? You've ruined my life. It's like being romantically involved with a camera fan. Yeah. If that's the case, then I'm sorry. I'm probably not the person that you want to be watching anyway. However, I don't think that applies to the vast majority of people on this channel. And I have made a decision. I'm indebted to one person, and only one person mentioned this. And I was surprised, actually. And the trouble is, this one person said something that I've said to you on this channel lots of times. hire it and try before you buy. And the amount of times I'm going to be doing this work, an investment in a camera of what, maybe £1,500, £2,000 as a used camera, that's an awful lot of hirings. So my decision has been made. Thank you to that one person who commented on this and showed me some common sense, which I've given to other people but didn't apply to myself. I'm not going to buy a full frame camera. I'm going to hire one. Every time I need it, I'm going to hire it, because I don't shoot that often from a professional point of view. I gave up the business and I didn't expect to be doing any more professional shoots, but I have been asked to do a few. So if that's the case and I'm getting paid for it, I'll hire it. I'll take a little bit of hit on the profit on that job, or maybe incorporate it into the cost of it, but I'm not going to buy a new full frame camera. I'm going to hire one. Thank you to that person. You've saved me probably £2,000. I'll also turn the traffic reports off. You see, I thought I'd switch the radio off. You've probably saved me £2,000, and I am £2,000 indebted to you for that. If I do decide to go for another camera, then I'll probably just buy another decent lens for my 7D and use that. So hopefully that's put this issue to bed. Got all the worms back into the can and taken some of the heat off. If I have upset you in the previous video, I'm sorry. I don't want to upset any of my viewers. I really don't. It does mean a lot to me that people view this channel, and I don't want to be upsetting people. But at the same time, I don't like being upset by some of the comments back either. Some were quite caustic, as I say. The vast majority, though, were not. The vast majority were very thought-provoking. The vast majority of the comments were done from, I believe, a very positive and friendly point of view. And to each and every one of you who did make a comment of that type, made a comment which was based on your best wishes, the comments which were based on your understanding of a situation, thank you. I really do appreciate that. However, I think it's time to wrap this video up now, put it to bed, upload it to YouTube, and see what sort of response I get from this one. It's going to be interesting. If you would like to leave a comment on this, please do so. I'm very interested to see a comment. I am going to put this subject to bed. I'll probably not respond to any of the comments that you make on this video, to tell you the truth, because I think the next stage for me is just to test that camera and test it against other cameras and see exactly why I have that issue, and see if the solution suggested is the actual solution to it. And if not, then I'll have a think about it. But yeah, back to normal videos after this one. However, whatever camera you take, whatever format you shoot in, take your camera out. Whether it'll be a little iPhone, or whether it be a medium format Fuji film camera, or whatever it is, take it out. Have fun with your photos. And I'll see you next time. And on the way out, here's a list of all my fabulous, fantastic patrons on Patreon. If you'd like to join them, there's a link below. Bye bye.